Forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies, and how the hell are you on this fine late August evening on the Midnight Black Mass podcast here at its exclusive home for the moment, the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I am your host, the maniacal minister of the occult, the devil you know, the Reverend the Dragon, Dan Wilson, here alongside no Andrew Alexander this week, who is out due to illness. I guess he really did go crazy from the heat at Empire Pro Wrestling last night in Rossville, Georgia. More on that to come. But at this time, I am joined by our producer, the founder of the Beyond Ringside Radio Network and ProWrestlingRadio.net, Fast Eddie Lane, the Magic City Motor Mouth. How's it going?
You remembered all that. I'm flattered, humbled, and scared. You work for the IRS, don't you?
It's never a good idea for me to have too much information.
Yeah, I've always said, if you have what I give you and you have what you want, come on down to Birmingham. First round's on me.
I'll take you up on that one of these days.
Deal.
So, been an eventful week in the world of professional wrestling for me. In the time that we were off, had a few things to address. Of course, we advertised an appearance here in Knoxville, Tennessee for Warzone Wrestling, as it was going to be the Devil's Rejects team of Brad Cash, Deathwish Brad Cash, and the Strong Style Psycho Tank against Christian Lotus and Tommy Dreamer, the innovator of violence. We were really looking forward to mixing up for that. We had to end up pulling out of the event at the last minute, and it was regrettable on all ends. Warzone understood, we understood. It was just a situation where they got screwed by a local promoter who pulled some shenanigans and got their building pulled out from under them at the last second. But there were enough red flags with that situation, and especially with the Dudleyville debacle, as it's being called, that just happened a couple of weeks prior, where all these talents got stiffed on their pay. We were about halfway along the trip when we got the message that not only had the show been moved to a different venue, but to a different town. And, you know, the logic, and I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, the logic that we used here was a new town means no time to promote. The odds of drawing a great audience are slim to none. You have Too Cold Scorpio on the card, as well as Tommy Dreamer, you know, some big names. Mahalabi Shera from TNA was also on the card. So, you know, those guys are commanding a nice fee. So you imagine that they're probably going to be counting on the door to pay guys like me and Tank. So, you know, if there's no fans, there's no door, and he thought that it would be just an unfortunate situation if that were to happen. So rather than, you know, encounter a potential bad scene, we respectfully pulled out of the booking and turned around and headed back to Chattanooga when we got the message that the town had been moved. Now, I'm happy to report, and a little bit sad that we didn't make the trip now because, of course, the show ended up being a success. They actually drew a nice house up in La Follette, Tennessee, where they moved the show to that night. Everything still went on as planned, and Devil's Reject, the Lethal Dose Strychnine, filled in for Tank in that match, and so they still got their advertised Rejects versus Dreamer and Lotus, but it was just a little bit different flavor, and hopefully we'll make it up to you soon, Knoxville. Eddie?
Always a precarious situation when you get that message that something's been changed at the last minute, and I'm of the same ilk that you are. Building is one thing, town is another, and especially because, like, I will do PA rentals. And when I get ready to do something, it's like, okay, if I haven't gotten things in arrangements in advance, so to speak, financially speaking, and we do a building change or a city change, I'm sitting back going, do I need to get in touch with these people and say, hey, this is the way we're going to do things? And it's like you said, it was virtually poof, last minute. I'm just glad that everything went off well. I mean, I hate the fact y'all weren't able to be there, but I completely and totally understand the logic behind what your decision. I would have done the same thing if I'd been you, more than likely.
Yeah, you hate it. I mean, and I was glad to hear that enough guys went up there and stuck it out. We've just been doing this too long. I've been screwed so many times by unscrupulous promoters. And while we knew the booker very well, we did not know the promoter. We never worked for him. So, you know, and I know a lot of times I've been in that position to have to be a booker for a promoter that's not holding up their end of the bargain, and you still end up looking like the asshole no matter what, you know. So I was sympathetic to their booker, and he was sympathetic to us. So like I said, there was no bad blood, no ill will. Hopefully we can maybe do business again in the future with those guys. But Knoxville, Tennessee, keep your eyes peeled. The Devil's Rejects have not forgotten about you.
Now, also, let me throw this one out there, because another thing that adds a little bit of a twist to scenarios like this is coming out of the situation in Dudley, which we've all had a lot of fun with this, and some people more fun than others. You know, you get a little bit, and you're almost wondering, it's like, great, is it my turn for the snake to bite me? And I'm glad to see that there was no snake, so to speak, unless, of course, it might have been Jake showing up at the last minute. But, you know, it's a lot of us do get very wary when these situations occur, and it's like you get another promotion, it's like, oh boy, my turn? God, I hope not. I mean, you know where I'm coming from on that.
Oh, I do. And allegedly it was the same promoter from Knoxville that Jim Cornette once allegedly attacked with a baseball bat in his car. If you're familiar with that story, then you know who I'm talking about. That interfered with Warzone's operations. Apparently he has a reputation of, like, paying anybody who's running in Knoxville, paying people to pull their posters down. Even if he's not running a show, it's just like, I guess it's just spite. You know, we have one of those guys here in the Chattanooga area, so I understand. But I understand what they're dealing with, and I hate it for them. Hopefully things will shake out better. But so that's what happened with Knoxville. Had some great Why We Wrestle action at the church this past Saturday night. We saw a new Why We Wrestle Triple Crown champion declared by victory via pinfall over the Lethal Dose Strychnine. Gunnar Miller is the new champion. However, not without hijinks, because earlier in the night, Strychnine was the guest on the talent show, JT Talent, asking him what his focus was like going into this matchup, knowing that the bounty, the $5,000 bounty, still on his head, and that he could still be attacked at any point during this. Well, Jeff G. Bailey and Gunnar Miller come on out to interrupt the festivities. And there's a little back and forth. Everything's fairly sportsmanlike until Strychnine goes after Bailey. And, you know, he reiterates that he better not involve himself in the match like he did at Summer of Hate against Michael Judas, or Strychnine is going to break his face, in so many words. And as a retort to that, I guess that was the button that made him fly hot enough to reveal his hand, because we found out then that it was Jeff G. Bailey behind the bounty all along. He pulled a giant wad of cash out of his pocket, started flicking it in front of Strychnine. Strychnine, amazed, not paying attention to the fact that Gunnar Miller is posted up, ready to destroy him. Miller attacks him, just eviscerates a chair on Strychnine's head, and that thing was unrecognizable to any chair that I'd ever seen when he got done with it. So Strychnine came into this matchup at a disadvantage. Matter of fact, he was stretchered out. When the match started, he wasn't there, and the referee declared that, if he didn't make it out to the 10 count, then he was going to have to forfeit the title. And Strychnine came hobbling out at about the 9 count and still went out there and went toe-to-toe with Miller for a brutal around 10 minutes and showed what kind of man he was. But after that beating he just sustained earlier, he just wasn't in any condition to topple an athlete like Miller. So an interesting crowd reaction. It's 2016, so you think a guy like that, I mean, even just as few as 10 years ago in Cornelia, they would have been rioting, ready to kill Gunnar Miller, because Strychnine is quite beloved, but he had about 50% fan support. So he had a really crazy dynamic of some very passionate Strychnine fans, very upset by what happened, and some very passionate Gunnar Miller fans who will support him no matter what. So it's things are heating up in the church there, Eddie.
While it surprises me that Bailey would be the one behind this, it doesn't surprise me that Bailey is the one behind this. I mean, you and I both had dealings with Jeff G. Bailey, and here's the thing. Normally, Bailey straight up to where he would come to your face and say, I'm going to do this, and the people that I represent are going to do this. For him to utilize subterfuge like this in order to try to get the bounty on Strychnine, it's kind of like, even though in retrospect, once you find out his identity, you sit back and say, I should have seen it coming even though I didn't see it coming. And you got to remember that Bailey, look, you and I both have track records as managers. Mine's a little bit further back in a long lost era. But I will sit back and say, when situations like that occur, it really makes you sit back and wonder, is there really honor among thieves? Now, coming out to it, Gunnar Miller, after the SCI showing that he had and some of the other various venues in which he's pulled off some great wins, I can only imagine that how deeply the deck was stacked against Strychnine going into this. And then for things to happen the way that you describe them, it's kind of like, I'm really surprised that there wasn't a riot. And if you say that there was about 50-50 support for both Strick and Gunnar on this one, or Miller, that I'm surprised this didn't just break out into a complete brawl and possibly even a human sacrifice at the church on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's quite possible. Of course, I'm not real happy with that, being that Strychnine is a client of mine. I'm not interested in getting into gang war with the elite right now. We don't have the manpower to deal with it. We have some manpower, but you get into a war with the elite, you're talking about a year off your life. There's no telling who all he'd bring in. So I'm not really interested in that. There's a couple of guys that are going to step up to the plate and try to defend Strychnine's honor. We're not going to take it laying down, but we're not trying to get in any kind of full-blown war with them right now. It's just it detracts from the focus that we have elsewhere. But Strychnine is a tough guy, and he doesn't really. He's happy that we're back because he needed the help, but he doesn't really want it because he's just the stubborn type of guy that he wants to prove himself on his own. And so on this deal with Gunnar, he's going to be back on September 10th. Gunnar Miller is not going to be there from what I've heard. So Strychnine's got some words, and we're going to hear him. He's going to open up things on September 10th at Why We Wrestle in Cornelia, Georgia at the church. So definitely want to check that out. I'm very happy with the progress the Why We Wrestle women's division is making. Two shows in, we've got had Aja Pereira against the powerhouse Jessica Lee. And they had a couple of miscues, but overall, they did something that a lot of people just can't do, and they connected with the audience on a deep level. That match really got a reaction. And so, I'm excited about working with both of them more as we get into this. Of course, Jessica Lee had Bobby Moore there, who, despite his best intentions, was not able to help his newest SBC cohort secure the victory, but both had a great showing there. A six-man tag that blew the roof off the building was the match of the night by all reports. The Get Along Gang, it was CB Suave, Gil Quest, and Marvelous Marco against the Lynch Mob. Matt Lynch, newest indie darling coming up now, Joey Lynch. Very proud of that guy. He's been all over the place, just Went to Chicago for freelance wrestling on Friday. Did Cordelia Saturday at Empire on Sunday. He's going up to CZW on September 10th, so he won't be at the church, but he's got a huge opportunity ahead of him. And they brought their brother, the Baniac, making his debut. And so people didn't really know what to expect. You know, they tried to sell the Baniac like, he was much bigger in stature than he was, I think, to try to throw off the Get Along gang. And so when he came through the curtain, this little crazy dude with a teddy bear, they were just laughing their asses off. But they weren't laughing when they got in the ring with him because he's a lunatic. The Baniac's offense is quite unorthodox. He used a couple of purple nurples and a couple of posterior bites, but he certainly got the job done. Of course, he couldn't have done it without the help from the Muji Bear, his lifelong best friend, his teddy bear that he brings to ringside with him. And the Muji Bear was quite the foil for the Get Along gang, and the Lynch Mob got the victory. But again, ever the sore losers, the Get Along gang left them laying again after the match. So that issue's far from resolved. So when we get both of those groups back in the building, you know that's going to be lighting up. That is, and a lot of great potential singles matches to come out of that, I think, as well. So that's exciting also. And lots more good stuff from the church Saturday. We saw Trevor Eon and Adrian Hawkins. So it's a battle sort of the old guard and the new guard. And Trevor Eon is rising in popularity. He's been on a nice little win streak. Adrian Hawkins shut that down with a little help from his feet on the ropes. Eon challenged him to a rematch. Hawkins said he would not only beat him, he'd beat him in less than 10 minutes. So all Eon has to do is survive the 10-minute time limit to defeat Adrian Hawkins, but they're going to lock it up one-on-one with that stipulation on September the 10th as well. So that's something you definitely want to check out. Elijah Evans got a big victory over Supernatural, and he'll be in action again on the 10th. Cyrus the Destroyer showed out and got a big victory as well. Slim J and Billy Buck. Okay, well, we've seen this issue escalate. They agreed to have a one-on-one match to try to settle their differences. Who's on commentary but none other than Kevin Blue? Do you detect a theme here, Eddie?
Maybe just a little bit.
So they have a great match. Slim had injured his elbow in the previous fracas when he was fighting Billy in the back, and they got into it. And so he was quite limited, but he still put up a good fight. The finish was just amazing on that. Slim went for the moonsault. Billy sidestepped and hit him with the super kick, the buckshot, in midair, and got the pinfall victory. It was a breathtaking moment. And, of course, Billy unknowingly capitalized on Kevin Blue standing up at the announce booth and getting Jay's attention and just distracting him ever so momentarily, though he was trying to regain his focus. Billy Buck went to shake Slim J's hand after the match to try to, put this behind him and, let him go back on their course. Slim wasn't having none of it. He really lost his temper. He was screaming that everybody's against him. Billy tried to reason with him. Of course, Kevin Blue, the opportunist that he is, snuck in behind him, shoves Slim J into Billy Buck. They end up fighting. Blue's laughing. Slim J gets up and sees him standing there, of course, and attacks Blue. And the security and referees come out. Slim decks every one of them. Danny Only, the matchmaker, comes out. Slim decks him. And finally gets peeled off. And so, Slim has just let this thing with Kevin Blue just drive him over the edge. And, man, it's really unfortunate to see. And Danny Only's going to have a big announcement about Slim J coming up on September 10th as well at the church. So you definitely want to be there.
Yeah, and with Kevin having the attitude that he's had recently, and you said it perfectly, opportunist. In my book, that's still kind of an understatement, though, because I've watched Kevin Blue, tremendously gifted in-ring talent, and there's no reason for him to try to take the shortcuts and play the games that he does. But for some reason, he feels so compelled and feels like he has to do it nowadays, to where he's just basically blown off everybody who's backed him to a great degree, and it's going to come around to him eventually. Because, Slim's already lost his mind more than once, and then he loses his mind all over again this past Saturday night at the church. Case point scenario, I think, Danny's going to have a lot on his shoulders when it comes to Slim. So I know that announcement's going to have to be something very big, because there's a lot of people that are going to be paying attention to what Danny has to say on September 10th at the church.
Well, apparently the boss man is not happy, and he's planning on laying down the law. That's what he told me. So we're going to have to show up on the 10th to find out to what degree, because there's a lot of infractions that occurred on August the 27th from a variety of parties. So I'm very interested to see where he goes with this. Very, very interested. So that's what's been happening at Why We Wrestle. Again, we return September the 10th. Going to have more women's action. Going to have Michael Judas back in action. Official match announcements will come soon, along with the official promotional materials and artwork from Cody Wynn, the man at Cody Wynn Designs, who does all of the Why We Wrestle artwork. Is just magnificent. You can also see his work at Platinum Championship Wrestling, where I will be coming up on September 16th at Sacred Ground. It's the biggest party of the year for Platinum Championship Wrestling, and it ain't going to be a party without the cornerstone, and that's me, Jeff G. Bailey, which going to be interesting trying to work with Jeff after this little contention we've had, I got to admit. But, we're going to try to keep it business-like, because we've got a different goal there. I have my hand in too many cookie jars sometimes, but it all works out in the end for the old Rev. And also Stephen Platinum and the Carpenter will all be there at Platinum Championship Wrestling, Sacred Ground, Porterdale, Georgia, September the 16th, 6 p.m. bell time. So, that's what all is going down there.
Actually, do me a favor now. Let me double check something. You said September 16th, and that's a Friday night for PCW?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's September 17th. I'm bad. I'm getting senile in my old age here.
It's okay. I was just kind of confused, because normally Sacred Ground either hits on a Saturday or a Sunday, and for them to move that to a Friday really blew me away.
No. Well, it's because I was completely wrong.
I didn't mean to do it, but still, I was just curious.
No. Thank you for correcting me. We would not want to give bad information out to all of our wonderful listeners out there who might be coming to check out the Rev and the Rejects in action. So you definitely don't want to give bad info. So it is September 17th will be Sacred Ground. September the 10th, again, While We Wrestle returns to the church. Said check the social media, facebook.com/thisiswhywewrestle, on Twitter at Why Do You Wrestle, on Instagram, This Is Why We Wrestle, and you can also go to ReelHouse, ReelHouse.org, and get your copy of the Summer of Hate video on demand for only $9.99. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thisiswhywewrestle. Been putting up around 2 free matches a week, so lots of great content coming out there. I was at Empire Wrestling just this past Sunday. Full Crazy from the Heat 2016. Had a live Midnight Black Mass there with Livewire Entertainment, as Mr. Sports Entertainment unfortunately announced that due to knee surgery, he's going to have to retire, and they're going to have to forfeit the Empire Wrestling Tag Team titles. Huge card. Just saw Tank and Joey Lynch in the main event for the Empire Championship just blow everyone away. Joey Lynch defeated Tank barely, but it took 5 moonsaults to do it. The video's floating around out there if you can get your hands on it. The clip of Joey Lynch hitting the successive moonsaults is quite an amazing feat. So it was a hell of a night. Gunnar Miller and Jimmy Rave had a classic. Drew Delight and Kyle Matthews had a great match. There was just a lot of good stuff up and down the card in Rossville, Georgia. No return date yet for Empire, but I do understand some of those matches will be coming out for viewing purposes soon. So you want to check those out. You can follow them on social media at Empire PW or Facebook.com/Empire Wrestling. And then this coming Thursday, I will be at Dragon Con Championship Wrestling in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a busy man these days, Eddie. I took a brief hiatus from getting out and traveling and doing stuff while my daughter was a toddler and my wife was going to college. And, that time is over, so I now have been given free rein to pursue my wrestling career again. And it's kind of nice to be out there and be all over the place.
Now, you said this Thursday, Dragon Con. We're all okay. For those who don't know, I know exactly where it's going to be, and I'd love to be there, but unfortunately, I have to work that day, which sucks. But we got to make $1 every once in a while in real life. But I know that the originally this year, where is it being held?
It's at the Hyatt. It's always at the Hyatt Regency Grand Ballroom. And it's going to be 7 p.m. Now, there's not a singularly ticketed event. You have to act. This is a private event for early arrivals who are Dragon Con pass holders. So they're not actually selling passes for Thursday this year. So you have to show your weekend badge or confirmation of that on your phone to actually get into the wrestling on Thursday. But there's nothing else going on. We're one of the only events. There is an after party with DJ Spider, also shortly following Dragon Con Championship Wrestling. That's just there. It's a soft run, I'm told, for a potential Thursday night official con start next year, because they feel like they have enough people already there and in the hotels looking for things to do on Thursday night that they can extend it a night. And so you can only get in if you have your weekend passes. You have to have a pass for at least one of the days, if it's a single day pass for Friday or all weekend. But you got to have a pass to get in there. Of course, you may not have picked it up yet. That's fine. You just got to show your confirmation. So that's the deal with that. It's always a wild event. Nothing is off limits. You will see hardcore, high-flying, technical wrestling, some comedy. They really go all out, and it's very much catered to that the sci-fi comic audience that comes in and partakes in Dragon Con. So going to be a huge card this year. Going to be a huge con this year. Got a lot of big stars coming in. They brought in a good bit of the cast of The Flash. A good bit of the cast of Arrow is coming this year, and a lot more that I haven't really looked at the list lately, but I do remember being pretty damned impressed by this year's lineup. I know that Liv Moore from iZombie is going to be there, so I'm going to be very happy about that.
Nice. Absolutely nice. Now, I know they've got a lot of stuff going on, including, I believe it is going to be Saturday, September the 3rd, where they're going to have, Dragon Con's going to host a night at the aquarium, right?
Yes, that's an annual event. They always do that as a tie-in to the con, and there's usually a lot of, so that's an officially sponsored event. There's a lot of unofficially sponsored events as well, whether it be at bars or strip clubs or what have you around the area. So, the whole Atlanta area turns into Dragon Con for a weekend.
That's something that I've always wanted to go to, and unfortunately I just haven't really had a chance to go. And lo and behold, I was actually noticing something that is going to be, I believe, originally Joey Fatone was supposed to be coming out to host one of the events at Dragon Con, and he's actually got a tag team partner to host this one. Chris Kirkpatrick is actually coming in, so you got 2 fifths of NSYNC. Oh my God.
That's right. I totally forgot about NSYNC. Fucking NSYNC's going to be there. So, yes, I'm going to be on the same bill with fucking NSYNC. What the fuck? They're going to be hosting the cosplay contest. So that ought to be an interesting affair in and of itself. Like, what a crazy oddball choice. But Dragon Con truly is like the pop culture con. So it's not just sci-fi. It's not just comics.
Right.
It's an embracement of everything about pop culture. And so that, can range from fucking NSYNC to Leonard Nimoy to Robert Englund to Adam West and Burt Ward, just from cartoons and movies and TV shows, like you name it, video games. It's just a convergence of nerds. If you're obsessive about something, then there's something for you at Dragon Con. It's the biggest party in Atlanta. I can guarantee you that. And so the great thing about wrestling being on the Thursday is that we actually get our performer passes for Friday this year instead of Thursday, since there's not any con to attend, technically. So what we'll be doing is now not having the pressure of having to do the show and enjoy the con. So it is kind of a nice bonus to have that whole extra day. So if you see me walking around, I'll be there with my lovely wife, Annie, and come say hello to us. We're happy to talk to you, take a picture, whatever. We might be disappointing a lot of people this year. I know people always look forward to our Dragon Con costumes, but it's been a busy year for me in the business, and it's been a busy year for her in her business, in the beauty industry. So we have not had a chance to put together any costumes this year. So rather than half-ass it, we're just going to quietly observe and get pictures with all of you guys this year, dressed like our old muggle selves.
See, and that's one of the things that I love about events like this. And I, unfortunately, like I said, I've never had a chance to be there in person. So I have to live vicariously through others who honestly have the opportunity to go to events like this. Because, you know, I would love to be able to go to San Diego, Chicago, Las Vegas, Orlando, some of the big ones that are out there. And, you know, some of the more moderate size, because I know that they've done it before in Nashville. We've had one in Birmingham that is still a growing event. And you've got different ones where you have different stars coming on board. And the cosplay for me is half the fun, because I've watched a show, I believe, I can't remember what channel it was on, where they were actually having a cosplay design contest. And, you know, originally I'm sitting back going, okay, this could be cool, because I'm no stranger to it. Back in the glory days of and I'm just going to go ahead and say the year 83, 84, 85, yes, I'm that old. Leave me alone. And this to me was like the predecessor to modern day cosplay, when the Rocky Horror Picture Show was the hottest thing going. And you had people who would come to the theaters back in the 80s dressed up. Brad, Janet, Frankenfurter, the criminologist. I mean, Rocky, all of the above, Magenta, Riff Raff, all of the different characters. And a lot of people, I mean, I was, for one theater, the official criminologist for 2 years running, and had tremendously flattered that the regulars at the theater gave me that honor and voted me that. Because there were some damn good people in some damn good outfits those years. I just consider myself blessed. And you have people nowadays who have taken it to a higher level than we ever dreamed it would go to. And so my hat's off to a lot of these people that are, it's like we were talking about the cosplay contest in particular, hosted by NSYNC and NSYNC. And it's like, I would actually not necessarily, I would like to be there just to see who comes up with what this year, because every year the game gets elevated. Every year people take it up another notch, and it's so much fun to be able to watch and to see the dedication and the workmanship that these people put into those outfits and their makeup.
Oh, I love it. You said it's 50%. Hell, it's 90% of the fun for me. Getting out and seeing all the different shit that people put together. It's mind-blowing. And, I mean, you'll see things like fully functional Iron Man and War Machine armor. You'll see, like, full-sized Hulks, like giant mech warrior robots that these people have just built. And, like working R2-D2s. Once saw a guy in a C-3PO costume one year with a remote control R2-D2. That was fucking amazing. Like, I've seen, like, full life-size Chewbacca's multiple times. There's always several of them. Great Jason Voorhees. They look like they stepped off the movie. So Ninja Turtles, where, like, I guess they went and got the mold somehow of the 90s movie costumes and just totally replicated those. Oh. Like, blow your fucking mind. One of my favorite costumes, and it was fairly simple, but it was great. And it popped me bigger than just about any costume I'd seen. Of course, you've probably seen, like, the Optimus Prime, Bumblebee costumes online from, like, the street performers. That those videos have gone viral, and there's some of those there too. But like I said, one of my favorite was very simple. It was from the Batman '89 movie. It was a dude and his girl, and she was dressed like the Joker, and he was the Joker's goon, the big bald guy who was holding the boombox, and they were doing the fucking art gallery scene where they're playing Party Man by Prince. And he was legit playing it on the boombox the whole time, and she's, like, dancing around, like, painting people and shit. It was just fucking amazing. Like, I popped so hard off of that.
It's just, and like I said, this is something that I would kill to go to because I have so many friends and so many colleagues in various industries, pro wrestling, music, all of the above, that go to Dragon Con every year, and it's like, Eddie, you gotta go, Eddie, you gotta go. And I was telling myself at the first of the year that I was gonna make it over there. This was gonna be the year. And I let the son of a bitch sneak up on me because I've had so much other stuff going on, and I apologize all over again. I'm going to be the butt of the jokes. Okay, not the butt of the jokes, but I'm going to get razzed huge all over again. It's like, yeah, this was the year, huh? Yeah, it was.
Well, you don't want to miss that. That's coming up this week, and then so this weekend, I believe I'm actually going to take off. I was contemplating going to PCW. Like, the offer was on the table, but they also told me, no harm, no foul if I wanted a break. And given the Dragon Con, I might still do it. I don't know yet. I'm undecided on that one. It's nice to have options. It's nice when they respect you enough to give you options.
Amen.
That's a first-class organization. So got that coming up while we wrestle. Announced the big October event. Fright Night returns, this time with a subtitle. Fright Night in Last House on the Left will be October 22nd at the Church of Southern Wrestling. Don't want to miss that. The SCI team has announced the Scenic City Rumble coming up in March in Saudi Daisy, Tennessee, a precursor to the SCI 2017 with some qualifying matches and more. That is going to be a can't-miss event. Potentially going to be involved in the Carnage Cup 2017. Not all the details have been worked out, so I probably shouldn't say too much, but I have been contacted by them, and looks like that's probably going to happen as well. Back to my old IWA Deep South commentary post that I haven't been at in quite a while, so if that happens, that'll be fun. And just, trying to keep that calendar full. Got a top secret project I'm going to Nashville to do on September 11th. I'll reveal more details as they're available or if anything comes of it. But that's also a big opportunity. So, man, I'm slammed and trying to get out there and keep it going. But lots of good stuff going on in wrestling. Man, I am so pumped about wrestling in 2016. There is so much good shit between Cruiserweight Classic and NXT and all the various indies. And, I mean, there is no shortage of great wrestling out there right now. Of course, the main WWE roster is the king of the game, and they still got plenty of great things going on. But I did want to address a topic that I think, is an interesting discussion because, boy, has it been a hot button lately on the various social media forums. And it's, there was so much concern over the SummerSlam finish. And spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but if you're a wrestling person and you're on social media, I guess you're immune to spoilers because for some fucking reason, that don't apply to wrestling fans. Like, spoiler etiquette is not a thing. I mean, I understand on Twitter it's like the whole gimmick is live tweeting thing, so you really shouldn't go on Twitter. You really shouldn't go on any social media, but, there's definitely some Facebook etiquette about spoilers on different things, but it doesn't seem to apply to wrestling. So, anyway, with that ran out of the way, the Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton main event, of course, it was a TKO stoppage for blood type finish, where Lesnar busted Randy Orton's head open like a fucking melon with his elbow, hard way, as they say. And people getting up in arms about it and reacting, genuine emotion, reacting to what happened. Is it a work? Is it a shoot? What happened? Everybody wants to know. And guys, I think you put yourself in this position. We've gotten to a point where the inner workings of wrestling seem to be more interesting to the fan base at times than what is presented on screen. And so I don't think the work shoot is going anywhere anytime soon. Like, they did exactly what they set out to do with that, I think, and that is make people question, what happened, because it's just a different world in 2016. Like, the old psychology still applies, but the execution now, totally different. You have to go about it a different way. So I kind of think it was brilliant if that was the intended finish, and that seems to be the the word coming from the top is that was indeed planned. So, but it got people talking. What do you think?
I will agree with the fact that it's a definite, it's a work. Because the fact that there have been so many controversial comments made about different performers blading on television. Ooh, we can see the gig. Ooh, we can see them blade. And they decided, okay, fine. Well, guess what? We're going to take this one and go in a different direction and see how people respond to that. Well, they went batshit crazy. Everybody's like, okay. And here's the funny part that I have to put out there. Heyman did a stand-up. I think it was part of a Q&A where this has been all over social media, where Heyman is doing the devil's advocate. What's to say that Brock Lesnar didn't go into business for himself at WrestleMania? Who would have stopped him? Would Vince have stopped him? Would Undertaker have stopped him? Would Triple H have stopped him? Would the ref have stopped him? Da-da-da-da-da. So he kept planting the conspiracy theory seeds of doubt for everybody, and Heyman can deliver the goods behind a microphone. This man is one of the top on the national scene, plain and simple. And lo and behold, since that video went nuts on the internet, people watching it, downloading it, sharing it, all of the above, you now have a new train of thought that is prevailing in certain circles in pro wrestling fans and some people who are in the industry. Did they have this worked out to go hard way? Did something happen with the gig and Randy said change the game plan? Was this worked out in advance? Was it spur of the moment? Did something happen during the match where Lesnar genuinely got pissed and decided to do it his own way? Okay. Do you knowing how much Lesnar's getting paid per match and appearance in WWE, does anybody genuinely think that he's going to run the risk of losing that money? Especially after USADA caught him for about half of his UFC 202 pay. If not more. Greedy bastards. Worse than
No. No, I don't think anybody thinks that he wants to mess that up. But also, like, I'm of the opinion, and always have been, like, most of the things they run are on a delay. They have the top production team in all of entertainment. They're not going to let anything go over their airwaves that they don't want you to see unless somebody really gets one over. And so that's the rare chance of that happening, maybe, but it's very rare. But what they have done, and of course then with the Miz and Randy, or the Miz and Daniel Bryan thing also, like they seem to see that this formula, well, nobody's buying into the old formula now. So if we can blur the line, and it really is an old philosophy, create the doubt, you sell the building out.
Bingo.
And so, in this case, they're creating the doubt all over again. They're just going about it a different way. And, the wrestling fan is more sophisticated, so I kind of love it in a way.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with it because everybody wants to, all the fans keep wanting to pull the curtain back. They want to look behind the wall. They want to be, it's nobody takes offense to the fact that they're being called smarks. Well, guess what? That's not really an offensive term in my book. Smart ass mark is a derogatory term. Smart to me isn't. It's like you paid attention, you watch, you learn. Okay, fine. I did that back in the 80s. Before I even got into this industry, I watched. And there's the difference. I don't consider the word mark to be an offensive term, but until it is used in the proper way to be offensive. I've been a mark. I'm still a mark for this industry. I'm still a fan of this business. But everybody still wants to be able to, but yeah, nowadays we're coming to it. We've got things moved to a point where the line has been blurred, like you said perfectly a minute ago. So we need to blur that line a little bit more. Make people think as they're suspending disbelief. And if you can pull that off, you done something right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a different age, I mean, it was bound to happen, and so the fans are in on what's going on now, and that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as the business still thrives. However it survives and makes money, as I'm happy to that it stays around. But it's an interesting time. It's an unprecedented time in the wrestling business because, like I said, all the old rules, they still apply, but the execution don't apply as much anymore. So you got to find a way to execute the same psychology differently, and I think that's what they're doing with this whole work shoot stuff. We're going to see a lot more of that, as I said, over time. I strongly believe that we're going to see a lot more of the work shoots, as long as people are buying into it. I do sometimes lament and it's only because the old school, feud storytelling hasn't really been done on a major level in years. But I do somewhat lament the modern fans' rejection of that. Because it seems like the modern fan is all about the matches and not so much about why we're having the match. And I like the whole package. And I don't understand the concept of bitching about when promotions do angles. Like a lot of the super indie promotions, those fans just want to see you guys have matches, and they want to see it very light on the wrestling bullshit, for lack of a better word. The angles, the storytelling, the feuds, etc. They want to see the storytelling done in the ring, and it's a different style. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that also means that you have to just completely abandon any concept of long-term storytelling. I don't think that means you have to abandon any concept of continuity. It's just a different execution. I would like to see a more prevailing mindset on the indies of that, where it is accepted. Because, okay, you're accepting that it's a performance and applauding the performance in the ring and what they do as being amazing, and you respect it so much, but the talking, the heat building, the back and forth promos, the escalation, that's all part of the performance as well. So I just kind of wish that got a little more respect, but that's really my only qualm with wrestling right now. I couldn't be happier with the things that are going on for me, but not just for me, for the whole business, for my peers, for the indie community where independent wrestling's finally starting to get some respect. It's a good time to be alive.
And Rev, let me throw this one at you. And actually, I got two that I want to bounce. Number one, in some circles, the art of telling the story is still appreciated by some fans. And the reason I say that is, for the longest time, over the last couple of years, you had people who loved Lucha Underground, but would bitch that they're not telling stories. You had people who love Ring of Honor and the action they provide, but were bitching because they could not get tangible storylines. And we live in an era that the more boisterous and the louder bunch seems to be the ones that take over the conversation. You and I approach it in a linear, logical, professional manner. We are classified, both of us to a great degree, as old school with a progressive attitude. We've embraced the current day, but we still know where our roots are. And I don't call that old school, I call that real school, because if you can adapt and evolve in this industry, you're doing something right. And I know based on conversations you and I have had and watching your body of work progress, you've embraced that. So I don't call...
You have to.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, it's funny because the majority of people who will complain about the lack of genuine storylines are the ones who worship WWE. TNA has been enjoying a great resurgence in numbers, and they've been executing storylines. This current one they've got running between Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero, the Hardy Boys, or the old Hardy Boys, and Decay, Crazy Steve, and Abyss, with I think she calls herself Rosemary. I can never remember. She's hot, but I can never remember what she's called. Isn't that like after a first date? Andrew! There's your Andrew Alexander moment for the day, kids. Sorry he couldn't be here. I would have loved to have gotten his feedback on that one. But
Oh, Lord.
tremendous storyline over the tag team titles. And they're building a feud. And amazingly enough, people have accepted that. So once again, it's like WWE seems to be the one that has the hard time building. But once again, WWE, television writers working on a television show centered around pro wrestling. Why do you think NXT's kicking the main product's ass for the longest time? Because it was a wrestling show put on by wrestling people. And now the word has it that they're trying to get Adam Pearce up to the main roster product to help write and to help produce. Oh, hello. Welcome to another changing of the guard on the main roster product.
So the thing that they run into with the main roster, and so you definitely understand it, they escalate through things so quickly because they have so much content. And so at least with the brand split, I think it gives them a chance to slow some of the storytelling down and not have to escalate things quite so quickly like they would when the brands were combined, because you have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, an hour of Superstars, an hour of main event. You have first-run programming, 7 hours of first-run programming a week. That's a lot of TV time.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so if you...
No, I was agreeing. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, you're telling stories along that line, you're going to run into issues having to do more than you want. And so, totally sympathetic to that. I don't want to throw them under the bus or anything, but I would like to see the storytelling in the long form format come back on the indies. Maybe there's just not a lot of bookers that want to do it because it's not what the audience is demanding, and you do have to, you have to cater to them. Like, look, the way I look at it with Why We Wrestle is this, like, if I'm running a restaurant, I may have used this analogy on the last show, but if we're selling hamburgers, right? But, chicken sandwiches become all the fucking rage, and nobody wants hamburgers anymore. They want chicken sandwiches. Well, if you want to stay in business, you better start selling chicken sandwiches. Now, them hamburgers still going to be in the menu, too, and I'm going to throw one in there for you every now and again. But, you get your fucking chicken sandwiches. I'll give you your chicken sandwiches as long as you accept my hamburgers as well.
Well, I've got to say this, and watching what has happened with While We Wrestle, watching what was happening before the shutdown, and now that it's coming back to a great degree, I was watching what Empire was doing. I have the same thing with Peach State Wrestling Alliance, working with them, with Global Championship Wrestling, working with them. You have promoters and bookers who understand the concept of building storylines, and I've seen and heard fans wrap their heart around it. So I don't just blame the fans in this particular regard, because you have a lot of promotions that maybe run once every 2 months or 3 months. They may draw 400, 500, 600 people, but they're not running often enough to where they can build storylines. Back in the 80s, we had what were called outlaw shows. In addition to independent, there's that damn word, you had traditional companies that were long form in their programming. They were running once every 2 weeks, once a month, once a week on some venues. And they could build storylines. They could build feuds. But you'd have this one guy come along, Greg Green, who just wanted to do a pop-up show and just throw utter, and yes, this is the Midnight Black Mass, so I can say this, utter horseshit out there. Just like I would on To Be Determined Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here, be on Ringside Radio Network. And shameless, ain't I? But you have outlaw promoters, and you have some people who've been able to move into this era who still have that outlaw mentality. I'll just throw the shit together. They'll come. Well, you have people who see those outlaw shows. Well, it was a great action-filled night of professional wrestling action, or we hope it was. And lo and behold, they don't have time to wrap their heads around, and there's nothing for the fans to wrap their heart around. When you have shows like While We Wrestle, like Global, like Peach State, AWE that was running long form, like Empire going full steam and now starting to come back, those fans know they're going to get long form programs. and they get something they can wrap their heart around, like Combat Zone once or twice a month, AIW, Excellence Professional Wrestling out of Pennsylvania, another perfect example. They run once a month, but they're giving their fans something they can wrap their head and their hearts around in different facets of the match building. They're doing feuds, they're writing storylines, and once again, I think it's because of the fact that you've gotten so many different hopscotch moments in WWE that our attention span is like, okay. But then they come back to real, sorry, Vince, going there. Sorry, Hunter, I love you. You know that. We've met. They come back to real professional wrestling on a localized and regional level, and it's like, I hate that motherfucker. He gonna get his ass kicked next month. I'm coming back.
That's what connects, especially in the grassroots towns. You know, when you're not playing to the more sophisticated audiences in the bigger cities, you know, that's what hooks those people, especially if you're on any recurrent basis. It's a different ball game down here in the South. But not just in the South. Like you said, CZW does some stories. The AIW does.
Chikara.
You know, there's a lot of great promotions out there.
Yeah, Chikara
does some feuds. You know, there's definitely lots of good stuff going on. So support your local indies wherever you are, folks. I know we're running out of time here. We're down to the last minute, so I'm just gonna say my goodbyes. But yeah, absolutely. Like, there's never been a better time to support independent wrestling. The crop of young talent out there is just amazing, both the women and the men. There's a lot of excitement to be had. So check me out. I may be coming to a town near you. Follow me on Twitter at Dragons Rejects, on Facebook.com, Rev Dan the Dragon Wilson at Gmail for bookings, Dragons Rejects at gmail.com, and on Instagram at Dragons Rejects. And I'm thinking about starting a Snapchat just to get hip to the young kids. Eddie.
I love it. Yeah, I'm already on Snapchat. I have too much fun. I have a Periscope. I've used it twice.
Well, any last words you want to say to our fine audience, and thank them for joining us?
Folks, let me tell you something. We cut through all the red tape. We cut through all the horse caca around here on the Midnight Black Mass. And I was asked when I first offered for Reverend Dan and Andrew to come over here to the Beyond Ringside Radio Network to give them an outlet. It's like, they go uncensored. So what? We make no bones about it. Yes, there are shows on this station, shows on the network that are PG, hashtag HellDamnAss. There are two shows because they were the way they were before they came over here, and I fell into a great state of appreciation for both of those shows, and I wasn't going to ask them to change. There was no way in hell I was going to ask Reverend Dan and Andrew to change the way they did the Midnight Black Mass, because the raw, uncensored, unexpurgated version of what they do is what I like. Same thing with the To Be Determined show. So, once again, they may be a little bit more grown up than what you're used to handling, but we like to sit at the big kids table. Trust me on that one. Catch me Saturday night, Peach State Wrestling Alliance. Also, don't forget Back to Basics, the Tuesday conversation tomorrow night, Tuesday the 30th, right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Me and Phil Stamper, we got a lot of ground to cover tomorrow.
Outstanding. Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Midnight Black Mass. I hope to see your asses at Dragon Con on Thursday. Come say hello. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold. For past Eddie Lane, this is the Rev. Oh, we're out.